the business model of the brilliant store Fortnum & Mason, as I pointed out recently, had a fantastic royal connection, and that carried through the decades. A lot of people don't realise that they were very clever and innovative in the way that they marketed themselves. You know, when you think about today, we've got ads everywhere popping up on digital platforms and in newspapers. Well, they did it in a very, very clever way, because they didn't tend to sort of launch anything until it got past their biggest test, and that would have been the City Monarch. And one of the monarchs that really, really loved the fact that she was made a very special, well, shall we say, customer, was none other than the late and brilliant, in my opinion, Queen Victoria. Now, as we know, Queen Victoria was rather picky. You know, she definitely liked the luxuries of life. She had so many things for breakfast, but only really picked at one or two choice bits. She wasn't too fussed about having them all, but she liked to see these things, you know, new exotic jams, curry powders, all that sort of stuff. She really broke the mold in changing the taste, if you like, of the way that we eat today in England, you know, because once it had been, well, this is used by the Queen, well, then things really took around. And this is what they were very clever at, you see, because not only did they sort of, shall we say, win over Queen Victoria, well, she liked what they were offering too. And on top of all of that, during that very difficult time for the much celebrated, and rightly so, Florence Nightingale, she insisted that the beef tea from Fortnum & Mason's was given at her bequest to all of those people fighting on the front line and in the hospitals recovering. She did this without any fanfare or publicity, all paid out of the royal coffers, because she believed in its benefit. She said she felt better while having it. Not only that, her son, the Prince of Wales, Prince Edward, well, he equally, of course, liked Fortnum & Mason's, liking the finer things in life. And they decided to also procure him on side by sending all the latest royal delicacies over to Marlborough House to see if he liked them or not. Well, as we know, he did like his food and he did like his delicacies, so you can understand how this worked. But there was one particular thing that actually he took on board, which was very successful and still remains one of the biggest sellers inside the brand today. And this is it. As we all know, afternoon tea really came into its own all during the Victorian era. It was the moment in the day where people sat down and they, you know, were able, if you like, to congregate as women without their husbands to have what we'd call a natter in the north, a bit of a chat, gossip, you know, that sort of stuff. All about who was doing what with who, and more importantly, who was seen out with who. But it was all done with the civility of, well, it's just cucumber sandwiches and afternoon tea. But there was a problem, you see. Yes, that's right. The budding king didn't necessarily like some of the teas being served. So when they came over from Fortnum & Mason's with the latest stuff, and basically said, well, you know, he said, look, I'm not keen on the tea, basically. Could you not get a better blend or something like that? So they went out of their way to procure the very finest leaves of Assam and Darjeeling, stuff like that, and mixed it all together to find the one that he liked the best. And this is where the royal blend comes from. Now, I have to tell you, I've tasted this tea and it is absolutely delicious. One of the most refreshing cups of English tea. And it still sells out today, and it's still the #1 selling brand from them, because people think, the royal connection. Now, a lot of people don't remember that particular thing, because obviously it's over 124 years ago, but that's where the royal blend comes from. So if you think about it and you buy those box of teas and you think, yes, I enjoyed that, that was nice, it's all thanks to a royal connection, the king himself, King Edward VII. Not only did he like the tea so much, he sent it around the world, thus ensuring that that particular blend and brand became, well, much sought after, being shipped all over the world. So you see, they did some good for the business. And that's exactly why Fortnum & Mason's have kept their royal warrants to this day. I know for a fact that they still send all of their latest things all the way out to Highgrove and indeed Windsor Castle, Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, for all the senior royals that they might like to try. And more importantly, if they like it, then, well, absolutely they could have more. You see, that's how entrepreneurial business works, but they've been doing it over 150 plus years and more. We can learn a lot from the past, as I often say here on this show. And as I often say also, if you get the chance and you do enjoy a good cup of tea, well, I'm gasping for one now. I'll see if I can still afford a box of Royal Blend. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.